Kyron Hudson made some of the most ridiculous catches anybody's going to see in college football this year. Caught 38 total for USC. Then you got Devonte Ross, who was a star at Troy with 76 catches this year. Uh, how do you stand on those two pickups?
Yeah, I think good additions for Penn State. I think we'll start with Ross because I think you see the big numbers on Ross in the season he had. I don't think anyone should be expecting him to come to the Big Ten and catch 70 balls for 1,100 yards. But Penn State's offense the last 2 years, ever since the year where they were able to put Keandre Lambert-Smith in the slot, which is what they always wanted to do with Parker Washington and Mitchell Tinsley out wide and Sean Clifford's last year, they have really struggled to find a slot receiver that can – expose those matchups with linebackers over the middle, catch the ball in space, use their speed, use their agility, use their athleticism, make plays. I think Ross will do a very good job of that. Now, you want to see him get bigger. He's listed at 160. We all know how this works. If a player's listed at 160, they probably weigh about 155. But he'll enroll at Penn State in the coming days. So getting him in the strength and conditioning program with Chuck Losey, I think will go a long way because you want to see him probably put on about 10 pounds before the season starts because just for the more physical defensive backs he'll face in the Big Ten. Kyron Hudson, I'm really excited about Kyron Hudson in this offense. I think you put him out wide, right? I mean, he's a starter next year without a doubt. I think right now, if you project to next year, you probably look at Hudson and Trey Wallace starting out wide and Ross in the slot. Hudson was a guy, and he's not the only person on USC's offense I thought this about. I didn't understand why Lincoln Riley didn't try and use some of these guys more this year. Hudson was definitely one of them. Like you said, he made some of the most ridiculous catches you'd ever see. He played really well against Big Ten opponents, caught a touchdown against Penn State. I think having that experience of playing in the Big Ten will go a long way. Yeah, I think Kyron Hudson could be a big addition for this team. And, I know Penn State fans, you wanted that true number one receiver in the portal. First off, there's not a lot of those guys out there. I will preface this by saying, if Trey Wallace hit the transfer portal today, he might be the most coveted receiver other than Kevin Concepcion in the portal. That's just where it's at. But the biggest thing is you really raise the floor of this receiver room because for a lot of the year it was, hey, you got Trey Wallace, maybe Omari Evans can break one of the top. Otherwise, yikes. But now you don't have a true number one, but you probably have two really solid number twos in Wallace and Hudson. You have a solid slot guy in Ross. And if some of these young receivers, Tysier Denmark, Peter Gonzalez, some of these guys the staff are very high on, can come along this offseason, I think you're in much better shape a receiver next year. So I think that's the big thing with Hudson and Ross. They both have legitimate talent. Hudson's done it in the Big Ten, and they both really raised the floor of this receiver room, which – I mean, if you look at how much talent they have elsewhere, they don't need to have a bunch of studs at receiver, especially next year when you're going to have maybe the best quarterback in college football as your quarterback. You just need guys who can get some separation and catch the ball. And they now have three of those because I know Wallace has been wildly inconsistent this year. But again, outside of Tyler Warren, who you're worried about them throwing the ball to. So defenses could really focus on him. So I think this can help free Trey Wallace up some next year as well, to where there's other legitimate receivers defenses have to worry about.
Marty Lee, Penn State Rivals. Head on over there, check out Marty's work, Penn State Rivals, and get yourself set for the Fiesta Bowl and everything else going on at Penn State. Marty, appreciate you stopping by. Enjoy the Fiesta Bowl.
Absolutely, Mark, you as well. I'm sure win or lose, we'll talk after.